Pensions are a vital tool for building wealth and financial security for your future and later life, and are probably the most widely misunderstood financial product out there. The benefits of pensions are huge and numerous, so if you're not using them, you're missing out big time. Let's change that by giving you a complete beginner's guide to pensions. Hi, my name is Tom Morgan, a UK-based financial advisor and planner. Welcome to That Finance Show if it's your first time here. Remember, pensions are a huge topic, and this is meant to be a beginner's guide, so we won't be delving deep into every aspect. In fact, here is exactly what you will know by the time you finish watching this video all the way to the end. I know your time is important too, so here's the timestamps. Please feel free to skip around to the sections most relevant to you. Right, let's start with the different types of pension. There are many different pension products here in the UK, and they can broadly be split into two categories. Workplace pensions, which are provided by your employer, and personal pensions, which you arrange for yourself. Let's take a look at workplace pensions to start with. These can be split down again into two main types. The first being defined benefit. As the name suggests, the benefit you'll get from these schemes are defined by the rules of the scheme itself. In other words, it's a promise of a guaranteed future income for you. You may have heard the term final salary scheme. This is a type of defined benefit pension whereby the benefits you build up are based on your time at the company and your final salary at date of leaving. More commonly nowadays, these schemes are based on career average revalued earnings instead of final salaries, in order to make the pensions cheaper to provide, as for one reason, we have all started living a lot longer. But the basic principles are the same. The benefits are just based on an average of your career's earnings whilst with that employer, rather than your final salary. These defined benefit pensions are few and far between nowadays, but you may have one of these if you work in either the public sector or for a very large private sector employer, and they really are seen as the gold standard of workplace pensions. The second type of workplace pension is called defined contribution. These plans don't have a promise or guaranteed benefit at the end. Instead, the amount you'll get from these is unknown at the outset, and they are simply a pot you will build up over time through investing both yours and your employer's contributions. This is what most pensions are now, and more than likely what you'll be involved in, as it is now mandatory for employers to have a pension scheme for their employees, although employees can opt out if they want. This is something called auto-enrolment, something we'll cover in a little more detail later in the video. Now, let's talk about personal pensions. These are always defined contribution, so there are no promised benefits. How much you build up in the pot is up to you by your money going in and being invested over time. There are different types of personal pensions, such as stakeholder pensions, SIPs, but although there are some differences, mainly around what your investment options are, for the purpose of this beginner's guide, they all fit into this category, defined contribution personal pensions. Whew, that's a big chunk done. Next, it's on to employer contributions. If you're a member of your workplace pension scheme, it's very likely that you'll benefit from employer contributions. For most schemes, the employer will match your contribution up to a certain point, so this is free money available to you to go into the pot. There are rules on what these contributions have to be as a percentage of what your pensionable earnings are, which is all part of the auto-enrolment legislation that we'll get to. But whilst we were on the topic of free money, it doesn't stop with just your employer's contributions, and this is where pensions really start to become a powerful wealth building tool. Let's talk about tax relief. In order to encourage you to save for your retirement, the government will give you tax back by topping up your pension contributions so that you can build up your pot even faster. And here's how it works. If you're employed, your employer is likely to take the money you pay into your pension off your salary before you pay income tax. So if you pay £100 into a pension, all of it goes into your pension. Whereas if you'd have had that money paid to you as a salary, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you'd have lost 20% or £20 in this example to the taxman and be left with just £80. So the same gross £100 into the pension, you get to keep all of it. If it's paid to you, you now only get £80. Now, with the personal pension that you've arranged yourself, the maths is the same, albeit works slightly differently in practice. You put the £80 you've been left with after tax into your pension, and the pension scheme will claim the £20 tax relief back from the government, and this will then be added to your contribution, making it back up to £100. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, you can claim a further 20% off your tax bill on your self-assessment tax return too. So it would only actually cost you £60 to have £100 invested for your future. You can really start to see how amazing this benefit is, and it's like nothing else you can get elsewhere. Imagine if your employer is matching your £100 contribution. In this example, after tax relief, it could cost you as little as 60 quid to have £200 invested. That's the equivalent of growing your money by over 230% overnight. And this is one of the reasons why they are such a powerful wealth building tool, and why I say if you're not using them, you're missing out. Auto-enrolment. Back in 2012, there was a rule change, and the long and short of it was that all employers, big and small, were going to have to start contributing into pensions for their employees. On screen now is more information on how this works in practice, but it gave rise to terms such as eligible job holders, non-eligible job holders, entitled workers and qualifying earnings. More jargon, I know, but for the purpose of this video, just know that it captures the vast majority of people, so you are very likely to now have a pension scheme at work, and not only that, have an employer contributing alongside you to help build the pot. Here's the contribution rates and how it was phased in over time, but essentially, the overall contribution into the pension scheme should be at least 8% of your qualifying earnings, which are earnings between £5,824 and £42,385. And 3% of it has to come from your employer. You contribute 4% and the tax relief deals with the remaining 1%. Now, if all of this is starting to sound too good to be true, and if you're some kind of oil tycoon thinking of chucking in millions of pounds as a result, they have thought of this, and there are limits on what you can put into pensions because of how tax favourable they are. So let's talk about annual allowances next. Because of these huge benefits, there are overall allowances as to how much you can put into pensions in each tax year. The annual allowance is currently £40,000, but in truth, it's a bit more complicated than that, as it's linked to earnings amongst other factors, like something called carry forward, where you can use unused allowances from previous years, and so on. This is a little beyond the scope of this beginner's video, but just be aware if you're thinking of making a sizable lump sum pension contribution to check your allowances first. Best to seek some financial advice in this scenario, in truth. When we put our money into a pension, we want it to grow so there's more for us to enjoy in our retirement. So let's take a look at growing your pension. With defined benefit pensions, you and your employer pay in each month, but you aren't building up a pot of money as such. You are instead increasing the amount of promised income you're going to get in the future. This is called pension accrual. Every year you are a member of the scheme, you are increasing your entitlement to income in the future. The income that you've already built up will also rise each year too to try and keep pace with inflation. This is called indexation. If you change job and leave the scheme, pension accrual will stop, but indexation will carry on. Defined contribution pensions grow in a different way. Your money, along with maybe your employer's money and tax relief, goes in and is invested and actually builds up a pot of money which is yours to use in the future. How big it gets is determined by how much goes in and how well the investments grow. There is another huge tax benefit here, as the investments inside the pension grow tax-free. So as your money builds and compounds over time, no tax is being taken along the way, which will see it grow an awful lot quicker. Whilst we're on the topic of investing, Exactly what does your money get invested in? For a defined benefit pension scheme, this isn't up to you, and quite frankly, isn't really your concern either. Yes, the money gets invested, but it's the responsibility of the pension trustees to worry about, whereas with a defined contribution pension, the choice and worry is very much yours, and this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed. So, there will be a default investment option attached to your pension fund, meaning if you don't want to choose, you don't have to, and you can just let your money go into the default option. It's usually a middle-of-the-road kind of option in terms of risk, and is designed to be okay for most people. If you want to make some more personal choices tailored to you, you can ask to see a list of the investment options and take your pick, or maybe get some advice. So let's say you build up a nice pension pot. Now we're at the business end of the conundrum. Let's talk about how you get your money out of these schemes. It's retirement time. Define benefit first. You'll get your guaranteed income from the retirement age on the scheme every month. You'll pay income tax on this, but it is likely the scheme will offer you the option to give up some of your income in exchange for a tax-free lump sum, something called commutation. Now, although these schemes do have a nominated retirement age for when your benefits become payable, it is likely you could take benefits earlier, but they'll reduce your income as you'll get it for longer. You could also decide to defer your benefits, i.e., take them later than the nominated retirement age. You'll likely get a higher starting income this way as you'll be paid it for less time. Now, defined contribution. Remember, this is a pot you've built up, and you can access it currently from age 55, although that's in the process of changing to 10 years before state pension age by 2028. So if the state pension is due to you when you are 68, your DC pot will be accessible from 58. 25% of the pot is available as a tax-free lump sum. With the remaining 75%, you have some options. You can either buy something called an annuity, where you hand over this 75% to an insurance company in exchange for a guaranteed income. Alternatively, you can draw an income directly from the pot, regularly or as ad hoc lump sums, through something called income drawdown. Now, both annuities and drawdown are taxed as income, with income tax in the same way, but with drawdown, it's more flexible as you can alter the withdrawal amounts and frequencies to suit. When you're in drawdown, the remaining money is still invested, so it's up to you to make sure the portfolio is well put together and that you don't take out too much that you run out before you snuff it. Some people are shocked at this point to learn that the income is taxed on the way out, and will start to tell you how much better ISAs are than pensions as a result. Surely you've paid enough tax during your working life. How dare they charge you income tax on your pension withdrawals? Well, I do hear you. However, there are a few crucial counter-arguments to this that still make pensions very favourable, even over ISAs. Yes, you pay tax, but it ain't that bad. First, remember, you will have benefited from free money in the form of employer contributions and tax relief when you put the money into your pension. What's more is, this has been invested, maybe for more than 30 years, all compoundly growing over time. You are getting investment growth on free money as well as your own. So even if you have to pay some tax on the way out, you'll have benefited hugely in the previous years. Also, it's very likely you will be a lower taxpayer in retirement than you are during your working life. Let's say you're lucky enough to be a higher rate taxpayer whilst working. You'll get 40% tax relief whilst you invest in a pension. And then when you retire, all things being equal, with your mortgage paid off amongst other things, your expenditure is likely to be lower, maybe making you only pay basic rate tax on the way out. And don't forget, you also get 25% tax-free regardless from your pension anyway. But what happens if you die before you spend it all? Well, let's end on a cheery note, shall we, and talk about death benefits. With the DB scheme, there will likely be a spouse's or dependent's pension attached that may continue after your death. It's likely to be a percentage, often say 50% of your benefits, but there are very specific rules on who can benefit from this, so be sure to check the rules with your particular scheme. If you had a defined contribution pension and bought an annuity, you would discuss death benefits at the time of arranging the annuity. You can include a spouse's pension, if you like, at a cost of reduced income to you. If you're in drawdown, the unspent pot can be passed down generations and is tax-free if you die before the age of 75, slightly differently after 75. Oh, and it's outside of your estate too for inheritance tax purposes. One more thing. Just before you go, pensions are only one string to the bow of a successful retirement plan. Another great wealth building tool is a stocks and shares ISA, and I have a complete beginner's guide to them here also. A pension combined with one of these is a powerful set of tools to fund a very successful retirement. So watch this video next and take control of your retirement planning. My name is Tom Morgan from That Finance Show. Thanks for watching, and please like the video, leave me a comment below with any questions, and consider subscribing to the channel if you found this video useful.